I am going to call our first public meeting of this evening to order. We are here for a presentation by Cornerstone Baptist Church, who are applying for a bylaw amendment on a parcel of land at PID 1016377, which is located at 295 Shakespeare Drive. They are seeking to have this plot of land rezoned, currently from the Town Center Institutional Zone to the Town Center Mixed-Use Zone. It bears application number RZ001-25. My name is Jeff McDonald. I am Chair of Planning, Development, and Heritage for the Town of Stratford and also Councillor here in the town for Ward 2. I want to thank everybody for attending here in person and for joining us online. I just want to indicate a few things before we begin our actual formal part of the presentation. If anyone wishes to comment formally on anything from tonight's meeting, the town will accept written responses provided directly to the Planning Department by email or in writing until 4 p.m. on Friday, July the 25th, 2025. Please note the comments provided on any social media platform are not captured as part of the written submission process. After the application has been presented tonight, there will be an open floor for any questions or comments on the application. Questions via social media will also be monitored and submitted to be read into the record and answered. To ask a question, please use the comment field on either YouTube or Facebook where you are viewing the live stream. As this is a public meeting, you are required to provide your name and address when asking a question. Now, before I invite for the presentation tonight, I would just want to go over a few things about a meeting decorum. I certainly ask that everyone here this evening be respectful of one another and be patient and allow each other time to speak and respond. To keep this meeting moving in a smooth and orderly manner, the following practices and customs will be observed. Comments and presentations should focus on the nature of the merits of the likely consequences of the proposed application and must avoid the personalities or motives of the applicant. Comments should be focused on the application on hand and not on prior applications or proposals. All comments or questions are made to myself as chair, who will then decide who is responsible for answering the questions. There shall be no direct debate between members attending this meeting. Members attending this meeting should refrain from disturbing the assembly when presentations are being made or questions are being discussed. And in the interest of keeping everybody moving on schedule, presentations will be limited to 5 minutes for individuals or 10 minutes for groups. A request for additional time may be made and considered by the chair. Now, at this point in time, I would like to turn these proceedings over to Mr. Philip Ruff, Town Planner, who's seated to my right, to provide an overview of exactly what this application is about, before calling upon Mr. Philip Woodworth, who is here on behalf of Cornerstone Baptist Church. Mr. Ruff?
Thank you, Councillor. So the purpose of the zoning change is to facilitate the creation of 3 medium-density residential lots along Shakespeare, and for the expansion of the existing institution, which in this case is the Cornerstone Baptist Church building. So based on the information supplied by the applicant, these residential lots are initially proposed for townhouse dwellings. That was their preliminary concept. It is important to note that Cornerstone would not be building the dwellings on the lots, but rather selling the lots to other parties. So they're not going to be in the construction, they're selling them. So the current TCI zone does not permit residential development, whereas the proposed town center mixed use zone permits both residential, commercial, institutional uses. So it's mixed use. So the property is located within the core area identified in the town's official plan and is designated for residential land uses. In accordance with section 3.2.4 of the zoning bylaw, a written notice of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment was sent out to all property owners within 150 meters of 295 Shakespeare. This accounted for about 60 property owners and residents within there. So prior to this meeting, we did not receive any comments or correspondence from residents. And that's just a summary of the application.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ruff. I will now call upon Mr. Philip Woodworth, who is a representative of Cornerstone Baptist Church, to provide everyone here with an overview of specifically where we're talking about, what it might look like, and the rationale for the request to rezone this particular parcel of land.
Well, thank you very much. I'm Philip. I'm the lead pastor at Cornerstone Baptist Church. We have 3 different sites, Cornwall, Stratford, and Montague. And want to share just kind of the rationale and some of the thoughts behind the request for the rezoning. So this kind of places you on the map, kind of where we are located. And we're just respectfully requesting that the town rezone our 6-acre property from TCI to TCMU. Kind of zooms out. Center of that picture on the left is the blue square. That would kind of be us just across the street, kind of up to our right. Current zoning under TCI allows only institutional uses like places of worship, schools, or government public facilities. This zoning supports traditional community serving roles and doesn't allow residential and/or commercial developments. And looking to have it rezoned to TCMU, which maintains all the same institutional uses, but also allows residential housing, townhouses or apartments, and community-oriented commercial uses like daycares, cafes, or office, etc. The town center mixed use does not limit the land to institutional structures only. It adds flexibility for residential development, community-oriented commercial uses. It supports walkable mixed-use neighborhoods, and all of these things kind of align with Stratford's long-term goals on their town planning site. What does it mean for us as a church? One, it allows us to use part of our land for housing and community spaces here in a town that we're deeply invested in. Number two, it generates resources to support our facility expansion. And it stays rooted inside of our own church mission while serving Stratford's kind of evolving needs as the town just continues to grow. Just to give you a sense of our church family, all 3 of our locations are needing to expand their facilities. Our Cornwall site averages over 850 people on a Sunday morning. Our Stratford site is around 190 and growing. And our Montague site is at 140. Our Montague site is currently outside of their building and are meeting in a school. Stratford is in 2 services and running out of space for their children's stuff. And Cornwall is just, it's just really full. And if we were able to sell off some lots, it allows us to put those resources to expanding all 3 of those facilities just to meet the current needs that we're facing as a church family. And this kind of gives you a quick snapshot of what it looks like. Along the Shakespeare Drive, lot 1, 2, 3, those are the approximate sizes of each one, 154 by 101, 132 by 100, 132 by 100, and we'd leave a 66-foot right-of-way off of Shakespeare Drive into our parking lot area. And that's that.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Woodworth. I'll just ask you to stay there for a second just to see if there's any questions from anybody in the audience here with respect to this presentation. Yes, sir. I'll just ask you to come here and approach the microphone. Just say your name and where you live so we can have that recorded for our record-keeping purposes.
Okay, Six Ducks Landing, Richard Furlong. I'm just wondering, are you planning on any apartment buildings, or are they all going to be, and if you are planning on apartment buildings, which lot would that be, lot 1?
We aren't planning anything.
No, but if you're selling it to somebody, you must be advertising that you could build an apartment, or it's only for residential, single family, or...
Okay, it's a good question,
Yeah.
but actually I might direct your question to Mr. Ruff here. Mr. Ruff is probably going to be able to tell you a little bit about what's allowed in that town core mixed use area.
Okay.
Give you a little bit of an idea, like you referenced specifically apartments.
So I just want to know for each lot,
Yeah.
what would be the potential development?
Yes. I think Mr. Ruff would be the better source of that information for you.
Yeah. Give me 2 seconds. I'll just find it. Okay, so this is the TCMU zone. So in terms of permitted uses for residential related, you can do apartment units other than on the first floor. So that would be commercial ground floor, residential above.
So that's 2 stories.
That would be within here, if it's apartments, it's minimum 3 stories.
Minimum 3 stories. Now, what lot would that be? On lot 1?
Potentially any of the lots,
Any of the lots?
potentially. It all
Okay.
depends on who ends up
Right,
ultimately
I
buying it.
understand.
So In terms of conditional uses, so conditional use means it has to come up to council for approval. You can get anything from singles, semis, or side-by-sides, townhouses, stacked townhouses, which essentially is a row house, but 2 layers high. And then you can get apartments, so that'd be ground floor all the way up.
So
as
apartments, how
conditional
tall
uses.
can the apartments be?
So apartments, you're looking at building height of 40 feet, which is 10 feet of floor, so you're talking 4 stories.
And each lot could have an apartment building?
You'd have to take a look at the minimum lot area. 13,000, you're talking 15, 30, it's 3, 6, 3, 6, 9, 12. You're talking 6-unit apartment building, that's about
I'm
it.
sorry, what?
You only have about a 6-unit apartment building,
16?
6,
6?
yeah. Because you need, no, it's 1,500, 10, no. Give me a second.
I think for today's purposes, I think what's important to understand is that apartments are a potential use for
Well,
this area.
the thing is, it's good to know what the sizes are, and
Absolutely.
therefore the traffic flow, and also the physical dimensions and the look of the surrounding areas. So
For sure.
it's sort of important to know exactly what is possible.
Yep, sure.
You get 9 apartment units.
And
Building unit.
you could have 9 apartment units on each lot.
Yes.
Okay, now what about parking?
So parking with that, it would be.
Is it mandatory to have a certain amount of parking if you
Yes,
have?
it is.
Okay, so if they have 9 units, are you saying?
Yes.
So there has to be at least 9 or more parking spaces?
For that size, it's 1.5 parking spaces per unit. So 9, you're talking 13, 14 parking spaces.
And is that above ground or below ground?
It all depends on the design of the building.
So
there is
that's
going
up to the
be-
developer?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And I think that's it for the minute, then, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions from the floor? Okay, I might just check with our very capable staff here to see if anything has come in online. All right, thank you very much. All right, so there's no questions for me from, I should say, online. And I don't have any questions for you either, sir. As chair, I just want to thank you very much for coming in and providing this presentation. So I'll just let everybody know about next steps for this application. Written comments, as I noted, will be received until 4 p.m. on Friday, July the 25th, 2025, by email to prough@townofstratford.ca or hand-delivered to the Town Centre Planning Department. The Planning Board will meet for a discussion and make a recommendation to Council on Monday, August 4th, 2025. Town Council will meet on Wednesday, August 13th for a first reading, and if passed, Town Council will then meet on September the 10th, 2025 for a second reading and adoption. So I want to thank everyone again for attending and making submissions and comments and presenting tonight. That concludes our first item on the agenda. Our next item on the agenda does not begin until 7 p.m. Thank you very much. I'm going to adjourn this part of the meeting.
Beginning stages of the conversation internally. But if you drive in the parking lot, the expansion of the church would come out to the left side of that, kind of towards the town center, and kind of a larger sanctuary. So the building that's there now essentially becomes the lobby of what will be the future expansion when we get to that place. But we're early in the planning and conversations of that.
And so, Mr. Woodworth, there's a satellite image behind you, just on a very unscientific basis. I'm just wondering if you could just demonstrate using this image, just exactly what you might
Is there a
be.
pointer on that?
Yeah, no problem.
So are there any recreation facilities you're
Just
planning
before,
with
sir,
the church?
just before we get there, I just want to ask Mr. Woodworth, just for our own information, if you can demonstrate where this expansion is going to go on the.
So in 2008, when we first built this structure, the conversation was that the expansion would come out here, kind of a little larger rectangle that would mirror our Cornwall site, which seats about 350 people. And then we do what we've always done, have two services, just because we have come from traditions where there are massive cathedrals around that sit half empty. And we don't want to have an albatross of a structure for people 50 years from now. If there's 100 people gathering in a room that seats 700, that's really hard to maintain for heat and all kinds of things. But the idea is that it would expand out this way here, and then the parking lot come down this way. And again, these are like
So, I'm sorry, so more that way,
parking
towards
lot-
you?
Parking lot would come this way here,
Yep.
and the expansion would be here.
Oh, I see, okay, yep.
And so,
And-
sorry, yeah, you had to follow up on recreation, I think? Or?
Yeah, like, is it just a church thing only, or are you doing something so that you can hold, kind of conventions or meetings
Yeah.
and all that?
So our model has always been to build a multi-use facility. So our Cornwall site, it's a room that would fit and feel very much like this, where Sunday morning we gather for worship, and then through the week there's teacher conferences, there's seminar, like there's all kinds of things.
Right.
There's wedding receptions. In Cornwall right now, our ground is under construction to build a big gymnasium. I know that's part of the like long-term stuff, because we want our church
For here.
to be a space of just community activity and people coming together and all kinds of things. So step one here, which at best is 3 years away, is to expand the sanctuary out this way here. And then underneath of it, to have it be like a two-story, kind of a children's space. Our site in Cornwall, there's a daycare that functioned out of the basement for years and years and years. So if history tells us anything, it would be similar to something like that.
Okay. You got to sell the properties and get some cash first.
Yeah, we don't have the ability to raise taxes, so it's this is a part of that whole equation for us.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Sir, thank you. Good questions. Appreciate that. I really do. Okay. If nothing else, round two. Thanks, Mr. Woodworth.
Okay.
Okay. Appreciate that. We'll adjourn this meeting now. Then I'm going to call the meeting to order. Thank you very much, folks. I will now call this meeting to order. We are here tonight for a presentation from essentially the applicant is the town of Stratford with respect to our waterfront mixed-use zone amendment and rezoning proposal. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to join us this evening, as well as those who may be joining us online. My name is Jeff McDonald. I am Chair of Planning, Heritage, and Development for the town, and also Councillor for Ward 2. I just wanted to indicate that if you wish to comment formally on anything from tonight's meeting, the town will accept written responses provided directly to the Planning Department by email or in writing until 4 p.m. on Friday, July 25th, 2025. Please note that comments provided on any social media platform are not captured as part of the written submission process. Now, after the application has been presented tonight, there will be an open floor for any questions or comments on the application. Questions via social media will be monitored and submitted to be read into the record and answered. To ask a question, please use the comment field on either YouTube or Facebook where you are viewing the live stream. As this is a public meeting, you are required to provide your name and address when asking a question online, also here in person. Now, before I turn the microphone over to Mr. Ian Watson of Upland Planning, I wish to review some of our procedures here that we are going to put in place for this evening. Now, to keep this meeting moving in a smooth and orderly fashion, the following practices and customs will be observed. Comments and presentations should focus on the nature or the merits of likely consequences of the proposed application and must avoid the personalities or motives of the applicant. Comments should be focused on the application on hand and not on prior applications or proposals. All comments or questions are made to myself as the chair, who will then decide who is responsible for answering the questions. There shall be no direct debate between members attending this meeting. Members attending this meeting should refrain from disturbing the assembly when presentations are being made or questions are being discussed. And I would ask the presentations limit themselves to 5 minutes for individuals or 10 minutes for groups. And a request for additional time may be made by myself and considered. I want to provide an overview of what exactly we're here to discuss this evening. The Town of Stratford Planning Department is proposing a rezoning of 28 lots from a combination of general commercial, highway commercial, low-density residential, multiple unit residential, and waterfront residential to a new zone called Waterfront Mixed Use. As shown shortly in an attached map and updating revisions to our waterfront mixed-use zone in our zoning and development bylaw. We are also proposing amendments to the Town of Stratford official plan to permit additional mixed-use land uses to the adopted 2008 core area subsidiary plan and designate lots for mixed-use development. The official plan is currently underway review and will be revealed at a later time. But for now, we are dealing solely with the waterfront mixed-use proposal. And I would now call upon Mr. Ian Watson of Upland Planning to present his company's findings as it relates to this proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hear that okay? Oops. Yeah, thanks. How's that? Good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good evening, everyone. My name is Ian Watson. I'm a senior planner and partner with Upland Planning and Design. And we have been working with the town on the wider official plan review, but also on the specific project for the waterfront mixed-use area. Tonight we are here to specifically talk about that waterfront mixed-use area. And as mentioned by the chair, this is essentially an application made by the town to amend its own documents. As mentioned by the chair, we are looking at 28 parcels along Stratford Road and the Trans-Canada Highway, and looking to essentially rezone them all to one zone. There's a kind of a patchwork right now. Some of the properties, some of the properties are currently zoned mixed use. Some are R3. There's some C1, waterfront residential. There's a patchwork of different zones there that allow different things. And the proposal at its core would rezone all of these properties to waterfront mixed use and then update the waterfront mixed use zone in ways that I'll talk about in a second. So just to take a quick step back here, we would be amending two documents. The first is the official plan. That's the kind of the overall vision for the town, and it does have policies that speak specifically about this area that date from 2008. So those policies would need to be updated to accommodate this new vision. And then the bulk of the changes would be to the zoning bylaw, which is the regulatory document that controls use and height and those sorts of things. One other piece of context here, a bit of the why now, is that the town of Stratford has been successful in applications to the Federal Housing Accelerator Fund. And this is a Canada-wide program administered by Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation. And essentially the goal is to increase housing in communities across Canada. I think it was a $4 billion national fund. And communities had to come up with projects that could help build housing beyond kind of the status quo, to increase densification, speed up approval times. And so one of the town's successful proposals for this program was to take single-use commercial areas and make them mixed use and allow for housing in them. So this waterfront mixed use file or proposal here it would help fulfill the town's obligation under the Housing Accelerator Fund. So the area now is currently a mix of zones, but also a current mix of uses. So there are some vacant lands, there are a lot of lands that are commercial use only currently, gas stations, strip malls, that sort of thing. There is some single-use residential areas in the orange there, and some government lands as well. So again, it's a patchwork of different types of land uses. And one thing that I should mention with this is that with any of these zoning changes, the stuff that's there now can continue. It's protected as a non-conforming use. So this isn't forcing anybody to carry out this vision, but it is providing a cohesive vision that landowners in this area can help build towards. So the objective in doing this and having the town take the lead on this is to have a cohesive vision for this area. It is the gateway, it's one of the main gateways to town. It's one of the first things you see coming into Stratford. And so having this cohesive vision for how the area would develop to create a town gateway. The town is investing in the Waterfront Park, so having a walkable neighborhood grow up around that park and have people be able to use that amenity and benefit from that amenity. Having kind of a mid-rise mixed-use development that kind of gives that welcoming urban feel coming into the town. Also taking advantage of active transportation connections in the area, roadway connections. It's a very well-connected area and it's very central to the region as a whole. So there's a lot of opportunity there to invest in these lands and to have them really act as a gateway to the town. So some of the benefits that we've been looking at in proposing this style of development is, again, fundamentally tackling that housing challenge aligned with the Housing Accelerator Fund. When kind of massing out the different, the results of what this zoning could allow, there's something between 1,500 and 2,000 dwelling units, so that's a substantial opportunity there. The town has been growing rapidly and there is a need for housing units, and this is an area that can take them and take the pressure off of other areas of town. There's existing services here, sewer, water, so we're using those services efficiently, which is cost effective, lowers the burden on the rest of the community when it comes to servicing costs. Take advantage of transit, the road connections, areas for commercial development, job creation, and again, that idea of having that gateway to the town. A key part of this, and again, the benefit of the town taking the lead on this this initiative and having this cohesive vision for the area, is that we are able to, through these proposed regulations, have design guidelines that will help shape what this community looks and feels like, this area of the community looks and feels like. So some of the key provisions in those design guidelines is that areas along Stratford Road would have to be non-residential on the ground floor, so commercial primarily, with a goal of having a bit of a walkable, quote-unquote, main street along there. Generally encouraging flat roofs in this area, whether they could be used as outdoor space for residents. And then building heights in a range of 4 to 6 stories, kind of in the middle of the area, and then stepping down towards existing residential neighborhoods to transition from that denser to the existing context. Another key piece in all of this is that as much as the proposed zoning would allow 6 stories on some properties, above the 4th-story zoning, buildings would have to be stepped back. So you'd have the first couple floors, and then those upper floors would be stepped back. And the idea of this is it allows light into the street. It keeps a nice ratio of street width to building height. Makes it feel very pedestrian, very walkable, and it's not necessarily kind of overshadowing. You get the building height, but you don't necessarily get the impact of it. Generally, buildings are to be located close-ish to the street with room in front of them for things like sidewalk cafes, that sort of thing, but not so far back that you lose that sense of walkability and that sense of urbanity and a place where people want to be. For those areas where we are transitioning to existing neighborhoods, there's requirements on building entrances and the kind of articulation of the front of the buildings to make them appear to be like townhouses, whether or not they are actually that inside. Again, making that transition from this proposed area to those established neighborhoods. The design guidelines encourage underground parking rather than surface parking. And also, when there is surface parking, to have it behind the buildings or to the side, not in front, so that, again, you don't have that big, wide streets that aren't necessarily as comfortable to walk along. There's also standards in the proposed regulations for new streets. There are a couple areas down to the waterfront where there could be a potential for new streets to be built to create more of a grid pattern, a block pattern. And so there are standards in there in the regulations to guide those new streets and keep, again, that cohesive vision for the whole area. In keeping with the mixed use zone name, the list of uses that would be permitted in this area is mixed. So there are residential, multiple attached dwellings, aka apartment buildings or condos or whatever they may be, but multi-unit dwellings. So there is that residential component, townhouses, stacked townhouses, but then there's also a mix of commercial type uses, restaurants, retail stores. I would call them, that lighter commercial that you kind of want in a quote-unquote Main Street sort of area. As well as institutional uses like child care centers, nursing homes. So there can be that mix. You can kind of have that complete community where you can walk from your apartment to get coffee or a jug of milk or that kind of thing. These are some renderings. Actually, you may have participated a few years back in the waterfront plan for the public space that we worked on, and there were some renderings done as part of that they were focused on the park, but they also looked at the wider area, and so kind of giving you a sense of what was envisioned at that time and kind of what's informed this piece of work as well. And these are just some quick renderings. These are not necessarily, at the end of the day, how this gets built out will be up to the individual property owners. But these are some renderings to show kind of the effect of when you take a low density kind of commercial area and put 4 or 5 stories on it. What does that do to the feeling, to the sense of streetscape? So you can see difference there, as well as there. And again, this is building on some previous work that has been done, the 2021 Stratford Waterfront plan that looked at the public spaces. You may have participated in Shape Stratford, which was looking at housing development and what types of housing were appropriate for the town and the town's housing needs, as well as the active transportation plan that was done in 2023. It's all kind of feeding into this vision for a gateway to the town and a mixed-use area that's walkable, that's attractive, and that helps meet the community's housing needs. And this is just to wrap things off here. This is just a rendering of if this was built out to its full potential, what it could look like from the air in terms of building massing and orientation to the street. So, oops. And with that, I'll hand it back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Watson, for that very capable presentation. At this point in time, I would like to turn things over to those who are convened here for any questions or comments that people might have at this point in time. I'll just ask that people be orderly, I guess, if they do wish to come forward, and just raise your hand and I'll indicate for you to come forward. And I'll just ask that you provide your name and where you live in the town so we can record that for our deliberations at Planning Committee, but also at Council. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yep.
I'm tall. So my name is Dieter Friesen. I live over on Pondside in that neighborhood. I saw it mentioned, and I personally am in favor of the density, and I think that it's really important that we ensure there's a good public transit component to this. And it's good that there's talk of minimizing the number of street level parking in favor of underground parking, but I think you need to look at like parking minimums. If you're going to have good density, you don't necessarily, and you want to create a walkable downtown, you don't need, you want it so people don't need a car at all, and you want to ensure that there's like ample and frequent public transportation that can get people from this new core to downtown. And I didn't necessarily see anything in the way of a transit hub or a bus loop as part of that presentation, but I just think it should be noted that, for example, living on a transit route and working downtown on a transit route, it's not possible for us to take transit because it doesn't run at an appropriate amount of time. So as a result, we have to drive. And so I'm really hoping that any densification really takes into account the importance of increasing transit from Stratford to downtown. Because though we want to be our own town, and we are, and I don't like to go across the bridge to Charlottetown if I don't have to on the weekends, if I do need to, I would like to ensure that there's a transit component. So thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Sean Shea, and I live 138 Stratford Road. And I have an inquiry as to whether this is a 28-lot proposal of review. I'm wondering if another lot could be added for 29 in this type of a project. I have a property that bounds on Stratford Road to what you are reviewing and proposing, and the location of this particular lot is a residential lot, but surrounding it now, where it once was, an appropriate and sought-after residential lot, there's multi-unit building behind. There's a multi-unit building to the other side. 4 lots down, there's a multi-unit building again. Across the road, there's a commercial property. So the pleasure of a single-family dwelling in that environment, with all the exposures of the decks and families, etc., has diminished the residential for a single family, but certainly would be appropriate, I believe, to be considered in this type of a current review that you are doing. So I guess my question is simply that, is if in fact, in good faith, that another property which is bounding on what you're reviewing could also be included in that.
Okay, so what I'll indicate, sir, is just, if you don't mind just sticking around till the end of the meeting, maybe we'll get your contact information and we could follow up with you about that.
Appreciate that. Thank
Okay.
you.
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Richard Furlong, Ducks Landing. The thing that I saw, especially your overview, they look pretty blockish. Most cities other than Chicago, Toronto is a terrible example. The waterfront becomes a decimated area. I'm afraid that this project that you're planning is going to cut people off because it's going to be residential and buildings. You're not going to have a view anymore. The view from this side is really nice. You've got the whole harbor, Charlottetown, the Basilica, port, very nice. And if this project goes ahead the way you're talking about, I don't see any space for that. The other thing is, if you're dealing with the feds, you will probably have to build some low-cost housing because they don't want, $2,500 for, things. So I don't know, you never mentioned the fact that there would be low-cost housing and how that would manage. And the other thing is erosion. We are in a climate change. And if you're going to build close to the water, I think that's fundamentally a bad idea now, because they're saying in Antarctica, the ice things are melting. There could be a rise of 10 feet or more. Part of New York City would be under the water. So I don't think we should be building close to the water anymore, unless you're going to do stones like they have over on the other side. Now, maybe what we should be doing is cultivating so that there is a space on the beach where you can actually have people go down and enjoy the view if they can't swim there, but if there were picnic tables or something where people could actually use the water a little bit, I think would be good. I just think to just put up a whole bunch of houses and block off basically the view for the entire town and to have it only for a few people, I don't know if that's such a great idea, personally.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? And certainly no pressure for anybody either. Yes, sir.
Doug Johnson, I live on Harborview Drive. I wasn't going to say anything, but the first point that was made here about building and obstructing the view and the type of buildings. I had this conversation the last time before they built the waterfront towers. It was one of these build your own backyard type of guys that built that waterfront. The design of the building is a square rectangle, and before they built that apartment building, there were several of us who spoke up about the design of having it just a rectangular apartment building, normal, something that you would find 5 miles away up the street like you got right now. And the design that we originally proposed years ago for the Stratford waterfront had beautiful buildings, not square rectangles or square boxes. And I'd like to see some sort of design built that's nice. I mean, that's not up to the town of Stratford, or doesn't have anything to do with zoning. It's just the point that build something nice if there's something going to be put on the most profitable piece of land in Stratford. That's all I got to say.
Yep. No, thank you, sir. Just to that point, it may not be a full answer now, but certainly in Mr. Watson's presentation, he touched on design standards and certain items that will be included in the zoning development bylaw. So it's a very good point, something the town's alive to. We want to make sure that this area is, as you said, perhaps architecturally pleasing, I would suggest. But like you noted, elements of that are going to have to come down to the individual developers who apply to develop land in that area. But very good points, and certainly something that we absolutely need to take into consideration for sure.
As a follow-up, for all these changes that are being proposed to zoning, is there some proposal on the books right now to have this take place at this time? Like, is there people there ready to build as soon as this bylaw is accepted?
That I can't say. I'm not keeping anything from you. I'm just not 100% aware of what developers' intentions are right now. Yeah.
The motel property, does Heemstra still own that? The old motel?
I'm not sure, sir. I'm actually not sure about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Pat Martell, I live on Sunnyside Drive. And is the, Tim Banks had a proposal there a couple of years ago, just where the motel is, or was, and it was a lot smaller, so what happened to that design?
I'm not sure. That, all I can say is that predated my time on
Yeah,
council.
it's just a couple, 2 or 3 years ago at the most.
Yeah. I don't know.
So it was just a
you
lot
gentlemen-
smaller, looked, no large buildings or anything. I just wondered what happened to that idea.
Mr. Crosby's jumping in from the wings here. He might have some information for us on that.
Yeah, there was initial proposal for a motel unit and some other amenities, but it was very initial. We got one presentation on it, and they haven't been back since with a further proposal on that. So we don't know where that
Okay.
stands at this point.
You mentioned the accelerator fund, so that is not, doesn't have to be on the waterfront, right? You could get it up, and that's the next question about the Gray Group has a plan for all that area between Sobeys and here. Is that, Scott, is that?
So the, our Housing Accelerator Fund, so the town received 4.9 million on the basis of 7 initiatives that we had to meet with the CMHC for increased densification in the town. So the town received that money to go towards budget for consultants and for official plan updates. And then the town would receive funding, that some of that money to go towards infrastructure projects. So the Housing Accelerated Fund is about the whole of town of Stratford. So one of the main focus on CMHC is removing the commercials and going to a more mixed-use development. So we looked at the waterfront area as an example where there currently is a mixed-use zone. So the waterfront, like where the Michael Thomas and the Shepherd Drive, that all already is waterfront mixed use. So we're just amending that bylaw, but we're also bringing some of the other properties on the other side of Stratford Road and Houghton Road to create more of a cohesive street property that would allow for more walkability for commercial access and access services, but also increasing density in an area where that can already happen.
What about the Gray Group project?
So the
where-
Gray Group project,
Is
they
it
have
still
their own.
going ahead?
That
or-
they're still going ahead. That's not part of this project.
No, I
They
know
have
it's
their
not
own.
part, but-
They have their own zoning that was done in '23. So they currently have a few projects ready, or almost ready, but they also have it's a 25-year long-term goal for all those of towers. So it's not necessarily something that's going to happen
Okay.
overnight.
So, but the money could be used, the accelerator fund could go to that.
No, the
No?
funding from the Accelerator Fund would not be going to the Gray Group. The funding goes to the town so we're currently doing the official plan update, which is working with Ian and the consultants. We're doing some permit-ready plans that will be cost-effective for small residents to build townhouses and small multi-units. And then there's also funding towards an e-permit system. And then from that infrastructure that we put in place, we'll hopefully to invest more money in town services.
Okay, and you mentioned the entertainment establishments, that's bars?
Yes.
Yeah, they're currently already in that zone.
They are?
Yeah.
Where's the bar there?
There's a whiskey on the other side of.
Oh, okay, I meant in this side.
Yeah, but that's it. There is no there, but the zone is already zoned
Yeah,
for that.
So there could be a nightclub, a bar, whatever.
I wouldn't imagine a nightclub, but like there's services.
And that's just right on the border of our neighborhood, so just like a few inches away, there could be a bar?
I can't imagine that would happen. You would also have.
Why not?
Well, it's fair enough, but there is a separation between the properties on Harborview, which will be for the new trail, for the new boardwalk trail, that would take you around the back of the apartments. But that zone is already approved for that. That isn't a change.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, so I think one of the things too with the mixed-use approach, right now, a lot of that area is zoned for standalone commercial. And so, yeah, you could have a bar, and it would just be a bar. And with all that entails, you know, part of the hope of moving towards this mixed-use approach is, yeah, you could still have that bar, but it would be in the ground floor of a multi-unit building, and that changes the character of it. You're looking more at the brew pub type place. You're not necessarily, as the building owner, wanting to have a bump and nightclub in the bottom floor of the building that you own for apartments as well. So it kind of softens everything is kind of part of the idea with the mixed use.
Because right now, we can hear in Charlottetown, if there's anything at the Yacht Club or anything at Peaks Quay,
Yeah.
you can hear every song they're playing and sing along with it if you want to, but not at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I think who had mentioned about the design of the buildings? A little while ago, I made a design of what would be nice in that area, and this is Gateway Village in Fort Carlton. And I thought nice buildings like that would be really good, you know, and it could be a center for PEI-made products, you know, vegetables, everything like that. And so it's more like a smaller thing, but this other, whether it belongs on the waterfront and we lose our views. I think I have one more, that's it. Well, you mentioned, Dieter mentioned about parking. And for Canada Day, I don't know where everybody was able to go. Nightmare? Yeah, so parking is really a big issue there, and I think that's about it, so you might want to address the parking.
Thank you, sir. Yep. Thank
Yeah,
you.
there is some plans for more parking in that area, but the apartments would have a reduced parking. It's similar to what we have done in the grey groups area with where I think it's half a stall per apartment, but we are looking for more parking towards regarding the park itself.
Hi, I'm Laura Chapin. I live at the shorefront. Totally understand the need for housing. Probably as concerned as hearing some other people with the spec that has been done, looking like it's a 6-story building in front of a 5-story building. Would something that's built along Michael Thomas Way be stepped back the way that you described it? You see, we're there.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair, through you, the idea is that the upper floors would be
So
stepped
one
back.
floor would be stepped back.
And actually, that's 1, 2, 3, that should be down one, I think.
So it
should
would
be
be a
2.
max of 5?
Yeah, 4, and then I believe,
Yeah, it's 4 and then.
And one
two.
setback?
2.
Up to 2 step back.
Yeah.
The top, it would have, at the 4th floor would have to be stepped.
Okay, and that brings in the light, allows the light to get in? And in terms of, like, would you be controlling, if you had a bar that's facing shorefront, which is a residential building, like, would that be a consideration that the city would look at, whether that was an appropriate place for that to be?
Yes, for sure. And I mean, like, all I'll say is absolutely hearing from everybody here today is part of this process. The last thing I would want anybody to have the impression of is that this is a done deal. This is exactly what this is going to look like. Certainly, a big part of why we have these public meetings is to engage with citizens, to hear their concerns, hear their comments, try to incorporate those comments and concerns into this plan where possible. So certainly, you know, we've heard from a couple of people on that issue. Certainly, as Mr. Watson said, what we are aiming for is a neighborhood where people can live, can work, can enjoy the amenities naturally and otherwise. So we're trying to find that balance. And so that's absolutely part of what we're considering here. So to that point, absolutely. There can be no doubt that we're going to consider it on a go-forward basis. And it may be that certain of the uses that we're proposing become conditional, for instance, or something of that nature, right?
Okay.
So absolutely, yeah.
And the road, the new road that would access Michael Thomas Way, there actually is enough space there to create that?
I'll let Mr. Watson speak to that one.
yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Yep, we've modeled it out, and there should be enough space down there to create an extension as well as down through here. And actually, part of the way the regulations are written up is to keep those setbacks so that that road would be possible, and then also, again, to keep those views as well, that you have those kind of view corridors coming down to the waterfront as well. So there would be that space there, yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Oh, yes, Mr. Carnell just wants to add something, so you go ahead.
Yeah, and potential of adding the road would also create more of a safer connectivity as well. By having more of an eyes on the street, you'd have more frontage on the new roads that would allow for more activity and more safer connections around the neighborhood.
Thank you. Folks, gentlemen, I see you both. I just want to make sure that anybody who hasn't had a chance to speak yet gets that chance, but certainly I see you both, and we'll make sure we get back to you, okay? All right. In case there's not, but if there's not, then, oh, there we go, yeah.
Hi, my name is John Drake. I live in Sundance Lane in the other end of Stratford. I think we can see from the view of the potential design, to me anyway, what's going to be one of the challenges to trying to create a downtown feel anywhere in Stratford, and that is we have a 4-lane highway running right through the middle of the community. And that, of course, is not only just to serve the residents in the less densely populated areas of the city, who, as we've heard earlier, don't have access really to efficient transit that they can use at times when they would like to be able to use it. But of course, it's also, a gateway to the rest of PEI. So is there any thoughts in the project to sort of doing something to, I don't know how it would be done, to try to control that flow of traffic, to slow it down, to create some of that feel? Because I don't know about other people in the room, but I've never seen an overhead view of Stratford that would show as few cars as that coming off the bridge. It's not realistic. And the other challenge, of course, that anybody who comes home, I usually deliberately avoid coming home till later, closer to 6 o'clock, is that traffic at the end of the day. There's a huge number of cars that try to exit off at the intersection where the SO is onto Stratford Road. And they can't do that because one of the lanes going straight through the intersection is a straight and a right hand as well. So you'll often have people that are waiting on those lights, and the traffic will flow way back. So with all that sort of congestion from those cars and the speed at which they travel through there, I guess my question is that being considered into the design of the project?
So it may be a couple of people who address this, but I'll begin with Mr. Watson to see if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Chair. The province owns the roads at the end of the day. So as the town, we're don't have direct control over the roads themselves. But one of the thoughts of having these buildings here along the Trans-Canada and having them close is it does change the character of that road from, when you're driving down it and it's big and open and it feels like a freeway and you're speeding through. The same road with buildings beside it feels very different. It feels like an urban context, and there is that psychological, I'm in a town now. I need to slow down a little bit. So, through the things that we have control over, in some ways this was intentional to change the character of this stretch of road and make it feel more towny and less freeway-y, and how that will affect the way people view it. I don't know if you want to add anything, Scott?
Yeah, and then also the province is moving ahead with some of that changes around that area. So some of the displaced left turn will go, some of the traffic is going to be moved onto the Bunbury Road traffic circle. There has been mention of the turning right from SO. They might see this road as more of a beneficial for accessing some of those spaces instead of trying to come onto that Stratford Road there. So there is an intention for a medium to come all the way down from the new traffic circle all the way to the four-way there. So some of those street calming is some of the stuff that the province is doing. We're just trying to provide some more connectivity for the people that are in that area and providing access to services that currently people don't have.
Yeah, no, I was thinking of something like what they did in Hunter River. I don't know how long ago it was now, about 10 years ago. And that's obviously a very busy road and highway too, but they narrowed it in quite tightly with curbs and made it, restricted it to a two-lane highway through there.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that would be possible with the volume of traffic that goes through here.
But there's also, because with the amount of parking that's currently front-facing on a lot of those properties, that doesn't slow that traffic down. Those cars are gonna keep going into those services, but if you move that traffic direction to behind those buildings, that's less cars coming off the main road right into people's walking areas.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate that. I see you as well, sir. So we'll just want to make sure that we get everybody who hasn't had an opportunity to address the meeting yet, and then we'll certainly get back to you in case there is. Okay. Is there anybody else who has not had the opportunity to provide any comments or questions? Okay. Thank you. We'll now proceed, I guess, to round two. You, sir, or whoever wishes to go first. So I think I got three of you now.
Yeah,
Yep.
just one more issue on parking. Like, where, at the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned the number of population increase and the number of families. Where are all these people gonna park? Like, right now, the shorefront apartments, they're parking in overflow parking on the other side of the parking lot in front of the building. Like, the building that's likely gonna go in next to shorefront, the lot is larger, saying the property is larger or the accommodations, where are all those people gonna park? And then you got all these buildings, and there's hundreds of people in these buildings, where are they gonna park?
Sure.
I
so-
think that's gonna be a huge issue. That's all.
I believe you're right. So, but I'll let Mr. Watson address that. He did address it a little bit in the presentation. I'll just give him the opportunity to.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. So a couple pieces of this. One is that the zoning regulations do require the provision of parking, so a certain number of spaces for every unit. So the developers would have to provide parking for residents, and the regulations encourage it to be underground. That doesn't require it, but encourages it. So there's the on-site parking is one piece. The zoning also, there's a map that identifies some properties where parking could be permitted as a standalone use without a building, so that there could be a construction of parking lots or a structure. So there's an ability there to have kind of shared parking as well. And then the third piece of it is also just looking at this as it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing when it comes to parking. If all you build is parking, you don't get communities where you don't need them. But there is that awkward transition phase where if you don't have enough parking, it's awkward. But part of the goal at the end of the day is to have a community here where people don't need as many cars. Where a family can get by on one or two instead of having one for every kid, because the services that they need are closely available because it's on the active transportation trail that they can ride their bike to school. So there's a bit of a painful transition there, but having that community that you don't need as many cars is also part of the goal at the end of the day.
That sounds like you don't need 3 Barbie dolls, you only need 1. I heard that before.
Yeah.
And as Mr. Watson said, part of this zoning that we're proposing does encourage the use of underground parking. And of course, encouragement could move to mandate depending upon, our input and our comments and things like that. So certainly, it wouldn't be the only area of the town where that's featured. And certainly something we'll take into consideration as well when we're going back and reviewing all the comments from here, as well as potentially those who might be written in as well. Yeah. All right. Yes, sir.
So I've got 2 things. First off, I think parking is a big issue. And I think if you're going to have, I think it should be more underground parking, not just optional. But the problem is where this land is located, is it structurally safe to have underground parking? Because you're near the water, and I don't know what the surface and the underground surface is like. So has there been any studies to figure out? Because if you're going to have big areas of just parking, it's going to be very unsightly. And the other thing is, a lot of the land that you're talking about has been a sewage place for years. Now, is it even feasible that you should be building anything on that land at this juncture in time? Like, a lot of land has to be left for many, many years dormant and let in all the other things, natural environments for many, many years. And I don't think this has been many, many years that Charlottetown has been taking the waste. So I think that's something else that needs to be addressed, because the land, if kids are going to be playing in it, and the earth has been turned up and turned over, what effects is that going to have on health?
So, I'm not sure if it was a question or comment. I don't mean that in any negative sense, but if it is a question, I think all I'll say at this point in time is, I'll just reiterate that it is not the town who's looking to build necessarily anything here. We're looking to
Because you're public people and have been elected and stuff, it's your responsibility to make sure that those things are okay. And you need to address the people of the town to tell them that it is okay. And then you can be sued later if it isn't. Because you cannot just go ahead and let developers do what the hell they like, because they do exactly that. You have to have some kind of groundworks for what you're doing. And I don't think you're being upfront with us about what you are planning on doing and what you have done to make sure that these things are addressed, okay?
So what'll indicate,
So it is a question and also asking you to respond.
okay, so what I'll say about that is, just like any other development, there has to be environmental quality checks done on any property that's looking to be developed, and that's a provincial standard, and that's something that the Department of Environment handles. It doesn't necessarily go into zoning as such, but what I can state is that as part of our development process, any potential development has to satisfy the town that those checks have been performed. So if that helps at all,
For example, the rocks that were put on the North Shore where the person decided that they would cut off the beach, the province didn't do anything about it. So the question is, even them doesn't necessarily mean they're going to support the people. And this is what we need to know from you, that this is something that is not going to be harmful to people down the road, or if you're going to build a parking lot underground, whether the ground is able to handle that without having it collapse, which has happened in other parts of the country. In Elliott River, I think they had problems with that kind of a structural thing. So these things are very, very important and need to be addressed now before these things are built and we have an ugly mess down by the waterfront.
right, so just to that point, again, in any development application, there would have to be usually stormwater management plans, environmental management plans, things of that nature, and that would have to be accompanied by usually some form of a testing that would indicate if there are concerns that you've indicated, such as sewage, groundwater quality, things of that nature. So certainly, no doubt, and absolutely something that has to be considered in any development.
And so you're going to get back to the people, have another meeting like this to do that?
No. Sure.
When the lagoon system was decommissioned, it was an infill project, actually, and all of the contaminants were removed, and that area has been completely infilled. Plus, it's a waterfront park area. We don't plan to do any substantial development on the actual waterfront park. There may be a small pavilion on the area that was not disturbed during the construction of the lagoon, but there are no environmental risks on that property now. We've already had that all clarified with the provincial government, and we've done all the remediation on that land. So the area that you do see where there will be possibly some development is closer to the SO, and that's on their property that hasn't been disturbed during the lagoon system. So there is no environmental concerns on that property anymore. Okay?
Thank you.
We'll find out down the road.
Yes, sir. I think you were waiting to, okay. Yes, sir. I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Just a quick question on the map there. Where's the SO?
Sort of disappeared on that map.
No, I just wondering
Yeah.
where the SO
Yeah.
is.
Now, please, this is an aspirational
Yeah.
document. This is
Okay,
not
but-
true.
But that street going from the apartment building straight up to Stratford Road, that's one of the ideas for the street, right? I think
That's
they're
correct.
paving it.
Yeah.
So they come into that little intersection, and if anybody has tried to get out of the SO in the morning to get into there, and yet now you have another road beside it where people are gonna try to get out to Stratford Road, so can you point where the SO would be on that one? Like
Traffic circle that they're putting in.
That'll be a big traffic circle? I haven't heard of the traffic circle.
That's at the Glen Stewart.
Right at the Bedford area.
So if I can just speak to that.
Thanks.
So the current SO is located right in that corner there.
Right there.
So the new zoning would not allow any new sort of like drive-throughs into that area, so we wouldn't see any drive-through projects. But in regards to the SO, the province has mentioned that they would like to look at the revising the entrance into that parcel there, because they don't like the way that people do speed around that corner there, and people are waiting to come out of that. So in theory, they might look at the new road as a new way of entering to that parcel, to removing the access off the Stratford Road and changing the orientation, just to remove some of that incidence.
But the roads are so close together, so do you have two traffic lights like 30 feet apart, or?
In regards to,
Pardon?
it would only be, because it'll only be a right in, there's no left turnings going to be on that road anymore. So because there's a median that's going to be going all the way from the intersection all the way to the new traffic circle, so they'll only be right in, out on those lots.
Thank you. Take the microphone.
Okay, anybody else? I see two people. Sir, in the very back, I think you had your hand up first, so, and then, Madam, I do see you, so I'll just get you next.
I'll be very brief.
Just get you up to the microphone here so we can get it recorded.
One concern I guess I see is,
Oh, and before you begin, I'll just get your name, sir, just for the record.
Wilf McDonald.
Yes.
One concern I see is we've got a 50 or 60-year-old bridge with lanes built on the side of it. This kind of development is probably going to need another bridge. I think the town needs to look closely at that particular aspect with the volume of traffic. And Mr. Martell mentioned the fact that we've got a lot of congestion now at the SO. That's just going to grow. So I think if there's a way of moving some of that traffic to another bridge or another option, might be something we need to consider sooner than later.
I don't disagree with that, sir. Yeah. And you, ma'am, yes.
Hi, my name's Maria Hanley and I live on Harborview Drive. Would you be able to bring up this map again, please? I have 101 questions, but I'm not going to ask them all. First of all, I live in the little neighborhood that you're going to change completely. We are the residents who live at the end, at that cul-de-sac and down. You were misleading. You said there was like R3s and things. There's R1 property in that little square. That's people's backyards. It's vacant land, yes, but it's people's backyards. It's not my backyard. So it's not NIMBY. It's not my backyard, I'll tell you that. But that's just not right, that will become this mixed-use zone. I don't really actually understand what that mixed-use zone is, other than it sounds like you can do whatever you want there. The other one on Shepherd Drive, you have things that have changed. And by the way, I wear bifocals, as does most of this crowd. This map is really hard to read. Even on when I biked down to see the sign on the side of the road, it was hard to see. So there's all those things on Shepherd Drive. One of them is called a waterfront residential zone. Could you define that for me, please?
So Mr. Watson, if you're comfortable talking about the various zones. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yeah, there is currently a waterfront residential zone in some of the properties in this area. As the name suggests, it allows residential uses. Maximum height, I believe in that one's 35 feet, is it, Phil? Yeah. So the maximum height in that one is 35 feet. And so what we've actually done there's another map that's the maximum heights map in stories. We've tried to keep these properties down here at that 3-story limit.
According to the key, though, you're going to change that to the
Yep, mixed use.
total use of
Yeah.
WMU,
Correct.
meaning you can do whatever you want. So I propose you don't do that. You should leave it as residential to give some sort of a buffer zone to the people who have already purchased homes in there, who have put their life savings into a home. That neighborhood is impeccable. The people that live there, these are not mansions, but they're all well cared for. The yards are well cared for. There's pride of place in that neighborhood. It's not fair to them to all of a sudden have a nightclub right in their backyard. That's not what we signed up for. We moved to Stratford to have a suburban lifestyle, not actually an urban lifestyle. So we understand that it's commercial land in there in the middle and have no control over that. But that little buffer zone, you should not take that away. That's residential and should remain residential. It should not have anything in it. We really do struggle with the noise that comes from Charlottetown at night and in the summertime. So we're really actually dreading what's going to happen there. And we don't think it's fair. I read through the entire thing on the very difficult, hard to find website. You have to go to I'll tell you how to do it, folks. You go to the billboard and you take the QR code, and that's how you finally find this. And it talked about what the federal government wanted, and one of the things was NIMBY, not in my backyard. Well, I think that's just a way of saying it's okay if it's in your backyard, but it's not okay if it's in mine. This isn't going to be in very few people's backyards, but for those of us that live there, it's going to make a big difference. I do have a few, the parking is a major problem. I have siblings who live at Shorefront. We're up there all the time. There is no way there's enough parking there. They're on the street, they're outside, and if that's at the ratio that you're already describing, it's inadequate. The other thing that we don't have children in school anymore. They're through the group, but I was very active in the home school as my children were in the school system. Our schools have been crowded. My kids are now almost 30. The school was crowded before they went to Glen Stewart. It's been crowded. It's been crowded the entire time they went to school. It's still overcrowded. There isn't room for one more child at Glen Stewart or Stratford Primary. Not one more child. So if you're bringing in all these families, where are they going to go to school? Are they going to be zoned to Glen Stewart, or are they going to be bused back to Charlottetown? The entertainment establishments, when you say it's not likely that there'll be a bar, I don't think that's good enough for us. So perhaps if you can leave that buffer of residential, that might help. Would that help, Doug? Yeah. I understand about the need for more housing. I will say this. I don't understand why you want to do this project. This many people, this many roads, this much commercial establishment in this location. We have lots of other places you could put high-density housing. I like Pat Martell's thing of build a smaller place with smaller buildings that are more appealing to other people. I don't see how this will make Stratford look more attractive as you come in from the bridge. I don't have any questions other than that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Going once? All right. I'll just check to see at this point in time from some of our staff to see if we have any questions coming in from online. Okay, hearing nothing, and I do not believe we've received any written correspondence in advance of this meeting. So I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody very much for attending here this evening and providing your questions as well as your comments. I do believe I indicated this earlier, but I really want to reiterate this, that this is not something that we are telling you now that this is a done deal. We take this process very seriously, and we take the comments that we received at these types of meetings very seriously, as well as any written comments that we might receive as well. And we absolutely will need to factor that into our decision-making, both at planning board, but also certainly at council. So I just want to indicate what the next steps are. For those who are interested, you can also provide written comments until this Friday at 4 p.m. By email to scarnall@townofstratford.ca, or hand deliver that to the Town Centre Planning Department. Upon that deadline passing, I will indicate the Planning Board is meeting for a discussion and making a recommendation to Council on Monday, August the 4th, 2025. Town Council will then meet to consider the proposal for a first reading on Wednesday, August the 13th, 2025. And should it pass first reading, it would move to a second reading on Wednesday, September the 10th, 2025, for the second reading and adoption. I want to thank everybody for their courtesy and their respect for all who are meeting here tonight, as well as those who have presented. It's certainly appreciated, and it goes very much forward towards building a better town for us who are residing here now and also in the future. And so at this point, I would adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much, folks.